In this class, we'll be thinking a lot about what can be called moral philosophy. So let's start there. What is moral philosophy? And let's tackle that word philosophy first. It's a word from ancient Greek that is made from two other words. Philo, which is a kind of feeling, a feeling of really caring about something or somebody, and Sophia, which means wisdom. So let's focus on just the wisdom part for a second. What does that word mean? I'm sure you've heard that word before, but really take a second to think about how you would define it. Maybe even push the pause button and say a definition out loud or write it down. In a class like this, we put a lot of emphasis on how the material in the class interacts with ways of thinking you already have. The more active your own mind is all along the way, the better this is going to go. So when these kinds of moments come up in these videos, you might just push pause in order to give yourself time to think about it. So, have you thought of a definition for wisdom? I'm guessing that your definition of wisdom is some version of knowing what to do, or the idea of having a lot of life experience. And we tend to associate wisdom with age. But the thing itself is some kind of knowledge about what to do in some arena of life, right? For example, if you're having trouble with a relationship, you might seek out somebody with more experience to give you advice, to share their wisdom. Or if you're trying to resolve a conflict or make a tough decision between two possibilities in your life, you might look for help from somebody older and wiser. So wisdom is just a word that refers to the ability to be good at navigating those difficult things in life. It's a kind of skill, right? If you're faced with something challenging in life, you can handle it better or worse. And wisdom is a kind of knowledge that allows you to handle things better rather than worse. And who wouldn't want that? So that brings us back to the philo or caring part of the word philosophy. If Sophia is wisdom, philosophy means caring about wisdom. To be a philosopher is to be a wisdom lover. And so being a philosopher doesn't necessarily mean you have wisdom. It just means caring enough about wisdom that you'll do the work of finding it. Again, wisdom is a skill like other skills. If you want to get really good at basketball or any sport, having a love for the sport is going to help you get there, right? Or think about the love of cooking or of writing. You pick the skill. A love of that activity means you want to get better at it. You care about it. A philosopher wants to get better at being wise about life's important questions, about being good at knowing what to do in any situation, of knowing how best to live one's life. Okay, so that's the word philosophy. So now let's turn to the word moral. You probably already have a sense of what this word means too, but take a second to think about how you would define it. Pause the video if you need to. Have you thought of something? Like a lot of important words can have a range of meanings, but in this class, we're going to take it to mean anything that has to do with how we treat other people. Ideas of right and wrong when it comes to our treatment of other people, and any principles or rules or guidance we might follow in how we treat other people. Questions about how we treat other people are moral questions. And so here are some more open questions for you. Things you could think about right now by pushing the pause button. How should we treat other people? Is that easy to figure out, or is it difficult? How do you figure those things out for yourself? What resources do you have in your life for learning about how to treat other people? We will be considering those kinds of questions throughout this course. Okay, so now let's put those two words together into the phrase moral philosophy. And what do we get? It's something like wanting to have wisdom about how we should treat each other. Now, you personally may not be seeking wisdom for yourself when it comes to how we treat other people. I hope you seek that kind of wisdom, but it's not a requirement of the course. Hopefully, you at least find those kinds of questions interesting, because the course will be full of material where we find people struggling with those questions of how we should treat each other And in struggling with those questions, they try to communicate to us some kind of wisdom about moral questions.